Hello, this is Jason Carlasio once again back here. Call the show Trump Gotti 2025 Conservative Politics in Mafia History. One thing I do want to say is Angel Gotti, I believe she'll be on tomorrow night, Wednesday night, May 28th. And we'll be talking about, great show, one of the best shows on YouTube. Like your show a lot. Will I do appear, I do come up on the panel. So I just want to, make an announcement that her show will be on tomorrow night, 9:15, with Jim Terry, who's a great guy. A lot to talk about here. What's going on? I want to say, let's see, Donald Trump, he's been in here for, let's see, over 4 months. He's accomplished more in 4 months than Biden accomplished in 4 years. Now it's coming out how Joe Biden was, wasn't really running the country. Who was running the country? I think it was Joe Biden. I think it was Hunter Biden. Because really, that's who it is. Their family. Was it Ron Klein? Get his name right. Ron Klein. Was he doing it as chief of staff? I mean, I know, was it Obama? Who was really running this country? I personally think it was Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. They were running this country. And Trump is cleaning up the mess from the Biden administration. Actually, he's cleaning up the mess going back to the Obama years. And I think the middle class has really been hurt since around '09 that he became office. Obama got in office. So he's cleaning up, 16, maybe 17 years of problems too, which if you want to take out the 4 years there that he was in, but he got bogged down a little bit with COVID, which, by the way, I want to say, I think that COVID was really a big scare. And I've noticed too, it's happened to me, I've heard other people, that the COVID shot has affected people's memory, especially the third shot. I don't recommend getting any more of these COVID shots. Listen, if you take care of yourself, you watch your health, you do everything right, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. But the COVID shot doesn't prevent COVID. This is what they were telling people. Oh, it's going to prevent COVID, like it prevent polio or something. No, it does not. Or like the flu shot prevents the flu. No, the COVID shot doesn't prevent. It's just supposed to reduce the symptoms. And they rushed to get it out. We had no track record on it, and it's affecting people negatively. And it's actually hurt a lot of people. I think it's done more damage than good. And I think you would have had herd immunity. I think the majority of the population, it's like the flu or a virus. And what I always recommend to people is take care of yourself, go to the gym, exercise, eat right, watch your weight, things like that, which helps a lot too. And I'm glad that Robert Kennedy, he wants to make America healthy again. And I think that's very important. Looking at preservatives, stuff like that, that's put in food. But the COVID shot with Dr. Fauci, boy, that's pretty scary. Why did Joe Biden have to give him a blanket pardon along with other people? That's very interesting too. And it's funny too, after the election in 2020, which, by the way, was stolen from Trump and the Republicans, they said that a couple weeks out, was it a week after or so, all of a sudden they come out with the COVID shot, which I found strange. But I'm glad that Trump is doing something about runaway prescription prices, which, by the way, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical companies. They have to make a profit, thank God. They do come up with a lot of life-saving medicines and stuff like that. We need medicines to thrive. However, we're subsidizing other countries because other countries put price controls on drugs. And because they put price controls, part of it has to do with NAFTA too, but Canada puts price controls to European countries. We're getting stuck subsidized with higher prices. Now Trump is finally coming out doing something, which is a good thing, and because you have to do something about the astronomical cost of drugs. I mean, you go to any pharmacy, boy, look at the medications that are out there. There are just so many of them. But I also think too, with part of it make America healthy again, is preventing stuff. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't do drugs, stuff like that. Watch your weight, take care of your health, stuff like that. Eat right too. Stay away from trans fats, fatty food, things of that sort. Vitamins. I work out at the gym every day, do cardio. I'm actually 46. People think I'm 31, 32, but if you eat right, you do everything you're supposed to, there's less of a chance of long-term health problems. So the thing is, should be prevention too, and prevention should be a bigger thing uh, than having to have all these prescription drugs, and then once you have something like diabetes, then you have to cope with it. So I think that's the key is prevention. That's what make America healthy again. That's what it's about. So what was going to say? So Trump is right with putting price controls on. Glad that there's a president that's addressing. And what I like with Trump, it's put America first over everybody else. Something that past administrations going back to the Obama years, you haven't seen it. Um, and I think this big beautiful bill, I know it's some criticism. I'm not saying it's perfect, but the good part about it is there are tax cuts, making the 2017 tax cuts permanent, which is big. No tax on overtime, things like that. I like to say someday down the road, I figure out why don't we eliminate the income tax and just go to a national sales tax, a consumption tax, value added tax, things like that. I think that's a possibility down the road that should be looked at. I've always said too, with all the property that the government owns and stuff, could we sell those properties, put those to pay off the national debt? That's what should be done. That's another idea. How about land that we could lease out to oil companies? The government can make money off of that, and maybe wouldn't need the income tax or just have a small sales tax. Um, I mean, the country survived. Maybe get our revenue more from tariffs. The government, we didn't have an income tax up till 1913, and we didn't have an income tax, nor did we have a sales tax, and the government was running fine. Not saying I know we had deficits, we did have debt and stuff back then, but you put it this way: if I read that if the federal spending was at 1990 levels, we wouldn't need the income tax. So that's something to consider too, because we also have double taxation. You're taxed on your paycheck. You go to invest that money, you're taxed again with capital gains, dividends, interest. How many times are you taxed on that same dollar? Of course, you have to pay state. Some states, most states have an income tax, have a sales tax, property taxes. How many times are you taxed on that same dollar? And even with federal taxes too, you pay tax on that money, you go to invest that money, you're taxed again. The only way you're not taxed if you put money in a Roth IRA, Roth 401k, which thankfully that was expanded too, where you can put more money away tax free for retirement, which is a good thing. Um, I like to see too, maybe a partial eliminating the income tax. If you eliminate the income tax and just have a tax on capital gains, dividends, interest, something like that, or just the income tax on earned income, and you don't have a tax on things like dividends, interest, things, capital gains, things of that sort. In other words, you pay your tax once on the money you earn. The money you go invest it, you don't pay tax on that at all. In other words, let's end the double taxation. In other words, make all your investment accounts like Roth IRAs. Once you pay tax on the money, you don't. Once you pay tax on earned income, you don't get taxed again. So that's another idea too. And I'm finally glad too the Trump administration, they're willing to address the open border. The border now is finally secure. Something that the Biden administration could have done, they refused to. They want all these illegals, so eventually they grant them amnesty, so they're voters for the Democratic Party. So I like to. I'm glad that's finally done. I'm glad Tom Homan's doing a great job getting these illegals. I say start getting the military involved. Start even using the FBI, the other resources of the federal government, the DEA too, even local law enforcement to get after these illegals, even using the military. Maybe start getting bounty hunters involved too with getting after these illegals here, because this is a major, major problem. And he really did a lot of damage. I mean, the way the elitists we would have no borders if they had our way. No borders. Basically, we don't have a country. That's what it comes down to. And there's a process. If people came here in here legally, they have nothing to worry about. If the people came here illegally, it is the problem. And then you got people committing crimes, things like that. Plus, how about all the other stuff? Who pays for health care for these illegals? The children in schools. How about the prison population? Things of that sort. And that's another thing, the side effects of all these illegals. And also, too, I'm glad Trump also addressed the what's going on at these Ivy League schools, which I nickname Poison Ivy schools. because all they are is poisoning, indoctrinating our children. And by the way, these people that you see come in a lot, these are the protesters going back to occupy Wall Street. These are paid protesters by George Soros, who's really a far left communist socialist and wants to destroy America. They're paid by his organization, these left leaning organizations. So that's who they are. And they don't even know what they're protesting about, these people. Um, but you have places like Columbia, Harvard, Yale. I like the Trump administration. Don't give them any more money. Harvard has such a large endowment fund, they could give free tuition to everyone. And I think if you make your family makes under 85,000, you go there at no cost. I'm not sure if that counts room and board. But here's another thing: with online courses, someday it's getting to the point 90% of the courses are going to be taught online. There's no reason to stay on campus. There's no reason to go on campus. What is it for some of these students to go party 4 years while mom and dad are, paying the bills, and then they take up a major like African studies? They get out of college. Oh, they can't get a job. Well, a lot of these college majors, you're not employable with them. You have to do something in life. You have to go to school that you're employable with. You're not employable with African studies or Asian studies, European studies. Just not employable with them. And that's that's the thing. These colleges are just become a left wing racket. And it starts at the schools of public education, where you get indoctrinated. If you don't go to school, you can't make a living. You'll starve. You'll be working for minimum. Not true. They're buying truck drivers are needed, for example. Yes, I know people saying automated trucks, that could happen someday. Right now, they need truck drivers, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, painters, masons. They need so many people in the trades too, and they can't find them. In one here in this state, Governor Malloy, the former governor of Connecticut, wants to shut down all the technical high schools. Well, geez, who's going to fix your car? Mechanics. Who's going to do electrical work at your house? Plumbing work, fix your toilet, sink. Malloy, I like to ask them that. There should be more push to get into the trade schools. And they did that here, where locally, if people in the area, they know what I'm referring to. You had Mattituck Community College, you had Waterbury State Tech. I think it was 25, 30, no, about 35 years ago, they merged the two. Basically, they eliminated a technical school. We need people in the trades. And I see it a lot in these blue states. They don't want people to go into the trades. You're a dummy, you're this and that. The people in the trades are making more money than doctors and lawyers and people that went to college for African studies. So there you go. And we need more people in the trades. I guess because I come from a blue collar family, I have a brother, successful electrician. So I know a little biased, but you don't need to go to college to make a living too. And if you're going to go to college, at least take up something: finance, accounting, medicine, law, that you could do something you're employable. Don't go to college and take up something that you're not employable with. And it's also, this comes from, I think, the public education schools, starts in the grade schools, a lot of left wing indoctrination, climate change, which we know does not exist at all, but there's a lot of this left wing indoctrination starts there. And all education in this country, unfortunately, has become a left wing racket. You go to one of these schools, you run up bills. You don't have to stay on campus anymore. You can take courses online. What about going to community college? What about going to a state school? Take courses online. You don't have to spend money in room. What you get, there's plenty of money in scholarships. I did that. A lot of money out there in scholarships. I had the first 2 years of college paid for. I didn't stay on campus, and you could take courses online. I got my master's degree online. So there's avenues out there, and it's all supply and demand. You tell everybody to go to college, the price is going to go up. And this idea of free college, well, who's going to pay for it? What, free college? So you go there, take up African studies, European studies. What major are you going to, where are you going to get a job in one of those? I like to ask somebody that. You're going to teach at some liberal college, so it's just a vicious cycle. And these people that get out of college, they can't get a job, and they loaded with student loans, they can't get a job, and then they're complaining. Then they want everything for, that's where the people, that's their excuse for free college. Free college, so you go there, take up African studies, and you get out, you're unemployable. Sorry, why do we have to pay for you to take up transgender studies, women's studies, anything like that? Why did they have to pay for that? What about people going to trade school? And another thing too, the more years you go to school, the more money you make. Well, if you talk to a lot of lawyers out there, they're struggling. Not every lawyer makes big bucks there. So that's a big myth too. Again, if you're going to go for something, you're going to go to college for law, medicine, nursing, a PA, paralegal studies, accounting, finance, yes, then it's good. But I believe 80, I hate to say it, but 80% of the college majors out there, you're not employable with. And I hate to say it, but they're garbage. What are you going to do with them? Um, you're going to, someday you're going to go work at social work and make 40 grand a year when the tradesperson is making a lot more money. Um, that's I'm finally glad Trump's trying to address that, where he's saying instead of giving the money to Harvard, Yale, all these left wing communist socialist colleges, let's give it to the trade schools too. That's where it is. And the Republican Party has become the party of blue collar people. It's become the party of blue collar people and small business owners, people who want to grow their businesses. It is truly become the party of the working man. Unlike the Democratic Party, that's all about the elitists, your Hollywood elitists, your left wing college professors, people like that. That's all it's becoming there. And actually, I think they used to say, "Oh, Republicans are part of it." I think the Democrats are part of it. Look at George Soros. When they talk about an oligarchy, geez, Bernie Sanders, he's not broke. He's worth more money than most Americans, so he's not broke, and he's very dangerous, far left socialist. I don't see who the Democrats though have anybody on the horizon. J.P. Pritzker, over in Illinois, who's a billionaire. I just don't see. How many people in the Democratic Party are billionaires? They don't talk about that. Warren Buffett, who, by the way, won't help his grandkids for college. I always believe family comes first. Won't help his children, but he gives his money away to all these nonprofits that are just a scam. Gives this money to people who don't want to better themselves, but yet he won't help his family. Well, I always say charity starts at home, and I think that's pretty embarrassing. Eats at McDonald's there, doesn't enjoy his money, gives his money away to everybody. Well, why didn't he enjoy his life? And he wants the estate tax. So he wants to punish hardworking people that started a business. Started a business and they can't pass it on to their children. He wants the estate tax, this and that, because Warren Buffett's the type, he doesn't want to help his family. He wants to help this one, that one. But, charity starts at home. And he's really cheap. He's a miser. I don't like how he refuses to take care of his family, and he helps all the strangers. He helps gives money to these left wing organizations, and he's the one that wants the estate tax. So again, aren't you punishing people for their success? I believe there's some billionaires that look at small business owners maybe are a threat to them. They don't like it. It's like for years, some big companies they wanted. What do you call it? They want a higher minimum wage because they could absorb the cost, but the small business can't. So, in raising the minimum wage, that's a whole other debate to get into. It doesn't guarantee better job prospects either. But it frustrates me with these liberals. They want the estate tax. They want to punish people that are success. And how many times were you taxed on that money? So even when you die, the government's going to tax you. The estate tax should be eliminated. Once again, it's a form of double taxation. That's all it is. This tax on capital gains, if it's interest, you already pay tax on the money. It's another form of double taxation. And by the way, when we had those budget surpluses in the late 90s or up to the year 2000, it was, had a Republican Congress with Newt Gingrich, thankfully, best Speaker of the House in my lifetime. And the one that they have, Johnson, he's very good now, the Speaker of the House, too. And he's backing Trump. But back then, I would say in my lifetime, still Newt Gingrich was the best Speaker of the House that we have ever had. And he's the one that we had budget surplus. They're trying to give credit to Bill Clinton. Well, keep in mind, too, those budget surpluses count the Social Security money. And if you took out Social Security money, the government's running a deficit. Okay, we had budget surpluses. Clinton's taking credit. Well, the president can't spend a dime without Congress. So they don't tell you all that. That's thanks to the Republican Congress. We had those budget surpluses. And the carryover from the Reagan years, the tax cuts with Reagan in the 80s carried over to the 90s. I believe it carried over to this day. I believe it helped our country, but it carried over to around 2008, 2009, right around there. But those budget surpluses were, like I said, thanks to the Republican Congress, not really thanks to Clinton. I think we should find a way to pay down our national debt. I like to see this country, they were talking about it back then, this country become debt free. We wouldn't have to pay all this money on interest too. Think of all the interest we pay on the national debt. That could be used for other things. That should be paying down that national debt. And I'm glad finally with Doge, Elon Musk, he's a billionaire that I like. He's a conservative. I like what he's doing, cutting the cost of government because government spending out of control. People working from home, we don't know what they're doing. I'm finally glad that we have somebody there that's serious about cutting spending and doing something, not just cuts in the increase too. And yes, you may not get everything out of this big, beautiful bill. It makes the tax cuts permanently. Oh, it's going to run up the deficit. No, that's not true because revenues will increase to the federal government. They don't tell you when Reagan cut taxes in the 80s, revenues to the federal government doubled because you gave more money to spend, creates more jobs, means more tax revenue for the government. People paying more taxes, more tax revenue for the government. That's like here in Connecticut. They're saying, oh, the state's got budget surpluses. They don't tell you all the um, unfunded liabilities with pensions and the debt that the state has. They're not telling you all that story. And a lot of it's because the Biden administration threw a lot of money, COVID money in Connecticut. And they're also not telling you it also goes back to the Trump tax cuts, gave more money to spend, which gave some state surpluses like Connecticut. So really, it's not anything to do with the Democrat. This is reason why Connecticut, but it's from Washington. We also have some serious, which is a whole another story, unfunded liabilities the state has to deal with too. And I want to finish up. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Tune in to Angel Gotti Show tomorrow night, Wednesday, May 28th. Bye-bye.